You're 23 years old, and there's nothing wrong with you. Your heart is strong, your lungs are clear, and you have two perfectly healthy kidneys. In a few hours, a surgeon is going to open you up and take one of them out. Not to save your life, but to risk it. The man they're giving it to is your twin brother, dying in the next room. And every kidney anyone has ever transplanted into another person has failed. But your brother isn't the one about to change medicine forever. You are. Now the surgery itself? Doctors had mostly figured that part out. Taking a kidney out of one body, sewing it into another. They'd done it in dogs, over and over. The hard part came after, because your body has exactly one job it never stops doing. Find anything that isn't you and destroy it. It doesn't care that the thing it's destroying could save your life. Every kidney anyone had ever placed inside another human being, the body tore apart like an intruder. So the wall was never the scalpel. The wall was you, your own immune system, doing precisely what it evolved to do. And then came the second wall, stranger than the first. To hand a dying man a kidney, somebody healthy had to give one up, somebody with nothing wrong with them. Cut open, down an organ with nothing to show for it. And in 1954, doing that broke the oldest promise doctors had ever made. So keep one thing in your head as this unfolds. The person who walked out of that hospital having changed the world wasn't the one who was dying. To understand why, and to understand who really made it happen, you have to watch what they were about to do. To get this, you have to go to Boston, a hospital called the Peter Bent Brigham. For years, a handful of doctors there had been circling this exact problem, and one of them was a surgeon named Joseph Murray. During the war, Murray had rebuilt the faces of burned soldiers, a plastic surgeon, and he had watched over and over as skin taken from one man and grafted onto another slowly blackened and died, rejected, destroyed, same as those kidneys. But he noticed something nobody could explain. When the skin came from an identical twin, it didn't die. The body just accepted it. And think about why. When you look in a mirror, the reflection staring back is identical to you. Same face, same everything, right down to the smallest detail. Identical twins are that same idea made real. One single egg that split in two. Basically the same person, living in two separate bodies. So to your body, your identical twin skin isn't a stranger at all. It's your own reflection. And that handed Murray an idea that sounded insane. If the body won't reject a twin's skin, would it reject a twin's kidney? He just needed the right pair. Late in 1954, he found them. Richard Herrick, 23, just home from the Coast Guard, dying of a kidney disease with no cure. And Richard had an identical twin, Ronald, who was perfectly healthy. Now sit with that year for a second. 1954, more than 70 years ago. None of the machines we'd recognize. No real drugs for any of this. And these men were about to lift a living organ out of one human being and grow it inside another. To make sure the twins truly matched, the doctors ran 17 separate tests. They even fingerprinted both brothers down at a police station, which is how some crime reporter caught the scent and blew the whole thing open. But long before anyone picked up a scalpel, the doctors slammed into a wall that had nothing to do with medicine at all. Taking a healthy kidney out of a healthy young man, for no benefit to him, none, felt like a betrayal of everything they had sworn. Editors of serious medical journals said it flat out. This breaks our oldest rule. First, do no harm. So Murray and his team did the one thing surgeons almost never do. They went looking for permission from other doctors, from clergy of every faith, from lawyers. The answers split right down the middle. Some clergy said yes, some said no. The lawyers squirmed. But everyone landed in the same place. This was one person's call, Ronald's. And Ronald had already made it. The way his wife told it later, he was the only human being alive who could save his brother, so of course he would. He knew he was gambling his own life on an operation that had never, not once, actually worked. He thought about it a long time. He didn't blink. And then, the night before, something nearly killed the whole thing. Richard, lying there, dying, got cold feet. Not for himself, for his brother. He couldn't stomach the idea of Ronald getting hurt, or worse, trying to save him. So he had a note carried across the hall. It said, "Get out of here and go home." Ronald wrote one straight back. It said, "I am here, and I am going to stay." End of conversation. The next morning, December 23, 1954, two operating rooms ran side by side. In one, a surgeon named J. Hartwell Harrison lifted a single healthy kidney out of Ronald. The first time these doctors had ever cut a vital organ out of someone who didn't need the operation at all. Down the hall, Murray waited. The kidney reached him, and he set to work fitting it inside Richard. Vessel to vessel. Then the tube down to the bladder. Hours of it. And then, the only moment that mattered. They released the clamps, and Richard's blood rushed into the new kidney for the very first time. Every kidney before this one, in every patient who'd ever come before, this was the instant the body started killing it. They watched. The kidney flushed from a dull gray to a living pink, and it did the one thing a working kidney does. It started making urine. Right there on the table. Alive. Working. Inside another man's body. No attack. No rejection. Because to Richard's body, this kidney was no stranger. It was his own reflection. Richard Herrick, who days before had almost no time left, woke up with his twin brother's kidney keeping him alive. But almost nobody understood what they were really looking at. The miracle came with a catch. It only worked because Richard and Ronald were identical twins. Because that kidney was Richard's own reflection, with nothing for the body to fight. For these two, it was everything. For the rest of the planet, nothing yet. Try it between a parent and a child, between two strangers, between anyone whose body wasn't a perfect match, and the old enemy came roaring straight back. The body would spot the new organ, brand it foreign, and tear it apart. Same as always. The wall hadn't fallen. They'd found one crack and slipped through it. And almost nobody dying for a kidney had a healthy, identical twin lying in the next room. For the Herricks, though, it was real. Richard recovered. And in the recovery ward, he fell for one of the nurses who'd cared for him. They married, they had 2 children. For 8 more years, his brother's kidney kept him going. Then the same disease that had wrecked his own kidneys came for the new one too, and Richard died in 1963, 31 years old. 8 years he was never supposed to get. And Ronald? The healthy one. The one who gave a piece of himself away and got nothing a doctor could measure? He just kept living. Became a school teacher, grew old, died in 2010, 79 years old. 56 years after he climbed onto that table and let them take part of him. 1 kidney, the rest of a long life, and he never once made it about himself. Meanwhile, the door they'd cracked got kicked clean off its hinges. Murray pushed on. The first transplant between 2 people who weren't twins, then the first from a donor who had already died. The wall of rejection finally came down slowly, and then, by the 1980s, a drug arrived that could quiet the body just enough to accept a stranger's organ. Today, in the United States alone, more than 100,000 people are sitting on a waiting list, and tens of thousands get the call every year. Kidneys and livers and lungs and hearts moved between strangers every single day, all of it running straight back to 2 twins in Boston, and one morning in 1954. So, back to where we started. The one who changed medicine forever, the dying twin, or the healthy one? Here's the honest answer. Neither, really. Yes, Ronald gave up a kidney, and without that, there is no story. But Ronald wasn't trying to change medicine. He was trying to save his brother. That's it. That's the whole of what was in his head. And ask yourself, if it were someone you loved, your brother, your kid, would you even hesitate? You wouldn't? It's barely a choice. It hardly feels like one. So the person who actually did this wasn't lying on either table. It was the people standing over them, the doctors, because they were the only ones in that building thinking past the two brothers in front of them, thinking about the family, about the next patient, and the one after that, and every stranger who would need an organ for the next 70 years. They looked at a healthy man and a dying man, and they made a decision nobody had ever dared to make. That's your protagonist, not the gift, the choice to allow it. And here's the part almost no one says out loud. The procedure became routine. Organs moved between bodies every day now, like clockwork. But for the person actually on that table, the one handing over a piece of themselves, it never became routine. It's still the single time in their whole life they will ever do it. There is nothing ordinary about that. And the door those doctors opened swings both ways. On one side, the most generous thing a human being can do for another. Give up a part of yourself freely so a stranger gets to keep living. On the other side, a market. Because the moment an organ has a price, somebody with money will dangle it in front of somebody who is desperate and broke and out of options. And the question stops being, should we cut open a healthy person? And turns into, is this a gift? Or is it a sale? The doctors in Boston never had to answer that one. They just opened a door that had been sealed for 2,000 years. What comes through it? The gift or the price? They never decided. And it's still open.